Hello, I'm here today for patreon.com/cooking with blues, Daddy Jack. I'm doing a recipe tonight that is going to be hanging, the hanger steak or hanging steak. I have one here, a whole one. It's an economical cut of meat. It's the muscle that controls the diaphragm of the animal. It's sometimes called the hanging tenderloin because it's so tender. It's not well known. It's not a designer cut like a ribeye or a sirloin or strip or whatever. It's also called butcher steak because the butchers typically held these back for themselves. It's known as bistro steak in Europe, and there's a lot of trim on it, but it's very cheap. I bought this yesterday for $3.40 a pound, and it will, once it's trimmed and properly cooked, I'll take it over tenderloin any day as far as its tenderness and flavor. And the flavor's built because, like I say, it controls the diaphragm, which is the skirt steak, the muscle that makes the animal breathe. So it's constantly 24 hours a day working, which it comes off the plate of the animal, which is where you would find bacon on a pig. It's in this area here behind the brisket, below the chuck. And so I'm gonna show you how to break it down. You can see here, there's a big side and a small side to it. And what runs right down the center of it here is a membrane that's inedible. And that membrane actually has a nerve in it. So what you want to do is with your hands, you just pull off. You can see how, there's a lot of this stuff on here, all this that you wouldn't eat, you wouldn't want to eat. You don't throw that away though, because you can get that in a pan and caramelize it and make just excellent beef stock out of it. And so what you're trying to do right here is you're trying to expose the membrane. There you can see it right there. That's the membrane. So what we'll do is we'll get to it here. And you take your knife, very, very sharp knife, and you just run. You're not cutting, you're just pulling it open. And then with your fingers, you expose it.
So you're not cutting through it, but you did cut into the meat.
Yes, you cut into the meat so you can expose the membrane. And then when you get it right there, you cut up. You see what we're doing here? Mm-hmm. And then you use your knife as in the way it's designed mechanically. In other words, you don't go like this. You hack the meat apart. You go in this motion right here. So you start cutting with your knife about here and you finish here. You might have to reset a couple times. That's basically how you do it. And you cut and you pull at the same time. Away from your hand. Always cut away. That way if you do slip, and there's part of the membrane right there. You can't even hardly cut that. And then you just dig down in there further because the membrane's quite deep into the meat, and it's stronger down here on this end. This end connects to the very last rib. This end connects to the number 1, 2, and 3 lumbar vertebrae. Move back, JD. And I've just about got it all right here exposed. So I'm just gonna keep cutting, keep pulling. Let your knife and the weight of the meat do the work. By what I mean by the weight of the meat is when you cut in, this membrane weighs less than the meat does. So you help it along like that and you pull. You cut and pull. And that's gonna get it right here, I'm pretty sure. We might have a little bit to go here in just a second. So what you do now is you're gonna need a little help here.
I can do it.
See how that works? Now, you got to, so you gotta make it pretty. And that's the way you do it. You just put your knife under and then cut back the other way. And you cut and trim very closely because you just don't want to waste the meat, mainly. I like to leave a little of the fat on mine because it's just flavor.
And deliciousness.
And what?
And deliciousness.
Do you remember what you call the fat that we cook in the pan?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Gratans.
Gratans. See, fat like this, these pieces, it's going to melt off anyway, and that'll just put more flavor in the pan. We're going to make a pan sauce with this, so all those little pieces of fond that get stuck on the bottom of the pan are just going to add to the flavor. But fat like this, it's probably not a good idea to keep that on there. It probably won't melt off, and it'll just be tough to eat. But see, this is another piece of that fat I'm talking about. I'll take that off just because it's sticking out, but there's nothing wrong with that. And then I'm going to square this up, face it off as it's called, because I'm going to make some stock out of the trim. And that's basically what you've got left of this half. You could roll it and tie it and make a real nice baseball cut, or that's not what we're going to do today. Today we're going to cut it up into individual little smaller steaks, but let me trim this other half here. I'll do this pretty much the same thing. Just find the fat, go under it, pull it, try not to cut into the meat, and just clean it up real nice where it looks good. And you think it's going to be tasty?
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of gratans.
There's going to be a lot of gratans?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
This is what's left of the hanger steak, what cleaned up. This is the trim we had, which, like I say, there's quite a bit. There's a lot of good meat in there, though. You can make stock out of this. Look at that. I mean, it's not pretty, but it's going to make a really nice stock that I'll make probably later this week. And what I'm going to season it up with is just something just simple. Just salt, coarse ground kosher salt. That's all I use. Fresh ground black pepper, and Daddy Jack's blackened seasoning. You can pick this up on daddyjacksnewlondon.com, I believe. It has memorabilia on there, shirts, hats. And this blackened seasoning, which is excellent. I use it as an all-purpose seasoning on everything, not just to blacken it. I use it just on everything. In fact, I'm fixing to order some because it'd be a good stocking stuffer, I guess. And when we come back in just a minute, I'm going to start cooking the steak, but I'm also cooking the side. And it's going to be the side. This is going to have a sauce, a cream sauce on it when it's said and done. But it's going to be served over an onion croquette, onion patty. Amish have a way they do theirs. And what I'm going to do is, what I've got in here in the batter, it doesn't have the milk in it yet. This is 3/4 cup of just all-purpose flour. It's 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not baking soda. It's got a teaspoon of sugar, and that's I guess that's it. Salt, pepper, and I've caramelized my onions. Traditionally, this dish isn't served with caramelized onions, but I thought that'd be a little bit loud and coarse, because I want this to be about more of the flavor of the meat as well as the cream sauce that I'm putting on it. So we'll be back in a minute when the stove gets hot, and we'll finish it up. Okay, we're ready for the last part. We're going to finish the steak. We're going to make the caramelized onion croquettes, patties. I went ahead and mixed everything together here, and I'm going to put a little bit of dry sherry into the mix. You could put balsamic, that would be good. But Winchester sauce as I call it, you can put that in there. But I think in this case, the sherry is really going to add I wish I had some anise. What do you call there's a liqueur, I can't recall the name of it right off the top of my head, but it's made with anise. Have your pan hot, waiting on you. Put your oil. That's a mix of salad oil and regular olive oil, not extra virgin olive oil. Extra olive oil will scorch. In this case, put your butter in, and you listen to the butter. You can hear it. What that is aside from melting, is that's water cooking out of the butter. So you want to wait till that goes quiet, and then you know your pan's hot enough. Same over here. This is a Wagner, by the way, cast iron. It was probably made, just by the numbers on it, it was probably made in about 1915, 1920, right in there. I collect Wagner and Griswold, Wagner ware. So the steak is ready. You saw me season it up earlier. It's still bubbling just a little bit. It's getting quiet. This one is quiet, so the steak's going in. It's a medium-high heat. I want to develop a crust on it, seal the juice inside of it, and also develop the fond on the bottom of the pan, because we're going to deglaze that after the steak is done and resting. And we're going to deglaze it with, and we're going to add some shallot. The sauce that I'm going to make out of it is, well, in fact, let's go over here and I'll start cutting up. This is basically a sauce Diane, but it's done my way, which I leave, in this case, I leave the mushrooms out of it. I want this to be a smoother sauce. And you don't really have to worry a lot on these shallots here. About the trim, you know, what you're pulling off of them, because all of this goes directly into a bag that I keep in the freezer, and that is what makes my stock all week. Onions, celery, carrots, leek, whatever you have. I have some leek here, and then you just go through it a few times. And when you make your stock with all these trim and your chicken bones or beef bones or whatever, in this case, the bones that we took off the steak, what you would do, you make your stock, you cool it, you put it under refrigeration, you defat it, take the fat off of it. Use that in your cooking too. It's full flavor. There's nothing better than potatoes roasted in beef fat. And if you want to go this far, you could even freeze your stock into ice cube trays. Each one of those ice cubes weighs 1 ounce, so the recipe calls for a cup of stock. Just grab 8 ice cubes, you know, keep them in a gallon bag and rotate them around. So I'll cut the shallot up. Nothing goes to waste. All this trim right here, along with the beef trim from earlier, the outside edges, this leek has already been cleaned. It's full of sand. It's already been cleaned. All that goes into your stock. Even this end piece right here. This is how you cut it. If you just go through it a few times, then rotate it 90 degrees and go through it a couple times. And then that all goes in the stock pot. We'll save this. I went out in the garden just now and got some green onions for Jack and some flat parsley that we're going to garnish with. And so we go back over here and we always have your, don't drop water in the hot fat, by the way. And then we'll make a couple of these pancakes. And that's basically what this is pancake. I call it a croquette, but it's an onion pancake.
So what's in there?
This is flour, baking powder, salt, sugar, pepper, and caramelized onions, as well as dry sherry. And the oil is just the mix I was talking about, plus butter. And that's going to take a minute to cook. That's good though, because we're getting ready to flip the meat, see what kind of colorization we have on it. And look at that. That's perfect. So we'll get it to this point, and then you want to baste a little bit with the flavor that's coming off of it. Hanger steak is a very loose grain piece of meat. It's similar to a chuck eye. Again, it's not a designer cut. Let me show you a trick. When your steak's like this, push it over to the edge of the pan. The edge of the pan will cook the outside edge of that steak, put color on it, develop more flavor. That's what's so great about these Winco, the commercial utensils. You can't hurt them. They conduct radiated heat so well, transfer heat. And so this, give it a couple shakes. When you see air pockets coming through it, air bubbles, that's how you know it's about ready to flip. But that's these second cuts They're like the Collet steak, which comes off the Collet roast, which is the back of the sirloin. The Collet steak is a delicious, unheard of, by most people, restaurants anyway, as well as the Denver steak, which is at the back of the neck in front of the chuck. At the very end of the ribeyes, where the chuck starts, there's about 3 steaks right there. There's 3/4, 3/4 that are known as chuck eye steaks. Poor man's ribeye, some people call them. Well, right in front of that, there's one steak, slightly in front of it and down lower towards the neck. There's one steak known as the Denver cut. All of these are great cuts. The chuck eye steak is also known as Delmonico steak. It's merchandised and they put different names on it, but it's still an absolutely delicious steak, as this one here is. And of course, my steak came out really nice. You can't beat these cast iron pans. You can see, it's just as done here as it is here. It just transfers heat so well. Clean up a little bit, and then we'll move our steak again. Good color on that side. We'll flip it over here, and I test steak just by the feel of it. I don't temp it. There's that's rare, that's medium rare, that's well, and it's on the rare side right now. Bake it a little bit more, and I tell you what, we'll get this just a little bit closer. Maybe we'll be off camera for maybe a minute, 90 seconds, and we'll be right back. The steak is it's right in medium rare. It's probably just on the left side of the rare side, mid rare. And we'll go ahead and pull it because it's going to cook up. And what we'll do is we'll pull it off. We got really nice caramelization, a lot of good color on it. And so now what we're going to do, we don't need all this oil in the pan to make our stock. I don't like greasy sauces. So we'll dab some of this out. We need a little bit, but I don't like greasy, nasty sauces. So we'll do this. We will deglaze with a little white wine. That'll burn off real fast. We'll add more fresh butter into the pan. Just for our shallot, leek, and we need a wooden spoon to get all that goodness off the bottom. That's all the flavor. It'll come right off. You don't even have to, of course this is not a non-stick pan, but if you've got enough heat and enough acid from either your wine or lemon juice or vinegar, wherever you get your acid from, it will come right up. So at that point, what we'll do is we'll take over here, put our shallot, put our leeks, and I made some garlic paste, just a little bit. We'll put that in there. We'll cook this down for just a minute, and it'll start coming together. There's so much residual heat in that pan. I'd turn the heat down a little bit. Move this over here, and don't be an amateur. Keep your plates in the oven at 160, 70 degrees and keep them warm, because what we're going to do with this steak, we're going to slice it in pieces. You don't want to go too thin, because if you go too thin, it loses all its heat and gets cold by the time you eat it. So you go about that thick. You slice it first, and that way it'll hold together. I'm trying to stay ahead of myself. So that's probably about right there. And so what we'll do, we'll add some lemon juice, and a little twist I like to put on this cream sauce is Dijon. Don't need too much. Remember, this is enough sauce here for 3 or 4 portions. A little cream in it. And the mustard will deepen the color as well as the fond that you brought off the bottom of it. I was going to put brandy in this, but I decided not to. I thought it might be just a little too assertive. I want this to be more about the meat. So I slowed it down and just put white wine in it. And the sauce will, it's actually running a little slower than I thought, so we'll let this thicken down and I'll show you what it looks like when it gets to the right viscosity. Okay, the last thing the sauce is finished, I did add one thing. I added a little bit of tarragon in it. I know that's one of Jack's favorite herbs, so I put that in there, and what I just did there is I added some butter, and that's called mounting the sauce. What it'll do is it'll add a sheen to it, and it'll tighten it up. Now you can see, move over here, you can see this, the consistency of that sauce. There's no flour, there's no potato starch, there's no arrowroot, the only thickening agent that's in this is through reduction. So the idea is, if you've got this much of something and you want to reduce it to that much, you can't season it for that much. You have to, up here, you have to season, because with the concentration of the volume goes down. So you have to season on the front end what you want it to become. You don't like to eat raw salt. You put salt in the front end. You got to remember, salt is not a spice. It's a mineral. It doesn't go away. It just intensifies. So what we'll do is we will carve the meat, and hanger steak has a very distinct pattern to it. So we'll go across the grain. We'll see how we did on the cook. That's pretty good. And then again, like I said, we'll go in the larger thickness. And not only is it medium rare, if you'll notice, it's medium rare all the way to the edge, not right in the center, all the way to the edge. That's how you know you've cooked it properly. So this one we'll put, let's just say 4 pieces. So we will come over here and we will grab our hot warm plate. I like the texture. I'll put most of the sauce on the bottom. That's what the onion croquette is for. You'll soak all that up. It'll look real nice. We'll come over here, place our meat. That, and if you want to see just this end cut, look at that. That's how tender this meat is. It's as tender as tenderloin, and it's $3.40 a pound. Yeah, you trim and you lose maybe 25%, but you don't throw it away. You make stock out of it. Don't throw anything away. All the shells off all these vegetables, they're all in the freezer. Nothing gets thrown away except what's inedible. And that's not much. And then I'll put a little bit more sauce right here just to make it look a little better. And of course, flat parsley has to be on everything I cook. And a little bit of green onion. And top it right off just for a little bit more color. Some of Jack's, Daddy Jack's blackening seasoning. Just give it a better, put that red color on it, make it look real nice. And there you have it. There is hanger steak with an Amish caramelized onion croquette with my version of a sauce Diane. The version is I add lemon juice and I add Dijon, and I omit the mushrooms in this case. And Jack, hopefully you're continuing to feel better. And y'all check out patreon.com/Cooking with the Blues. Jack there's exclusive content on there. It's cheap to join. I mean, literally, if you'll just not go to McDonald's one time a month and take that $10 and send it to Jack, you'll get full access to this. He'll teach you how to cook. You'll have access to music. He's producing some music right now, blues music. He sent me some from here in Dallas. It's really nice stuff. And if y'all will check it out, the blackened season is delicious. It makes great stocking stuffer. I don't know what. I think he's got a deal right now where it's 20 or 25% off. So check it out, and thanks a lot.